Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from YellowCat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet, and let's get started. Employees, how did you fire your bosses? Part 6. I was working for a shady franchise owner at Jersey Mike's. Still, her husband was a cool cat. That comes up later in the narrative. She's appointed Ferris, a supervisor from a corporate store, to manage her new franchise location. I'm a 19-year-old undergoing training for this sandwich shop, having previously worked in kitchens for 4 years. Even better than our manager, I'm by far their greatest worker. I receive a pay increase and a promotion to assistant manager by the end of the first week. I was overjoyed. Back then, I was earning more per hour than I had ever before, and I still receive tips. My manager then comes up to me and tells me that I'm going to start working at the store so that I can gain more experience. Since I didn't own a car, I had to take a 2-hour trolley ride every morning in order to open by 6 o'clock. Opening the lobby while baking bread, petting all the veggies, preparing the roast beef, making cookies, and operating the registers by myself only. Even though it was a lot more work than I was used to, I was still finishing it. Arriving early each day and opening the store by myself until 9:30 when my manager and the other employees arrived. For 2 months, this continued. At 8:30 one day, the regional manager, John, steps by to see how things are going and to find out where Ferris is. "Oh, I'm a bit behind today," is all I say. Ferris won't arrive until about 9:30. He inquired right away as to why 9:30, to which I replied he comes in at 9:30 every day. At that point, John walked out and picked up his phone. After about 10 minutes, Ferris arrived and John sent him back to his car after stopping him at the front door. John informed me that Ferris had been departing every day at 2:45 p.m. when my friend arrived to head home. He was opening with me and altering his computerized hours to indicate that he was clocking in 5 minutes earlier than I was. I was then informed that it's policy for every store to have 2 employees, even though I had been working as 2 people the entire time. Ferris was immediately let go. When Monday finally arrives, our store owner Kathy and John welcome me. John had prepared an apology for me, and I received an award from corporate for my exceptional service. It was pleasant. "I'm sorry that happened," Kathy said. "I moved Ferris to a different place so you won't have to interact with him." John and I were in disbelief. Being a franchise, she could rehire him without getting approval from the company. That's when I gave Kathy my 2 weeks. I refused to work for anyone who showed such little concern for their staff members. Kathy's husband then shows up on my last day and offers me a job doing yard work for his business. He said it made no difference when I told him I had no experience. He was impressed by my work ethic. Her husband then gave me a job from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday with benefits and company car use. The way it turned around was amazing. Not me, but my mom. She was heavily rewarded for forcing the dismissal of several bosses. She was transferred to a new location while employed by the state transportation department. She was able to view the unit's finances and saw differences between what they had coming in and what they were reporting to the state-level offices in their books. She started closely monitoring it and conducting additional research. By the time she finished, the general supervisor and 2 or 3 other employees had been arrested and charged with embezzling nearly $500,000 from the state's coffers. The state thanked her and issued a commendation for her assistance in locating it. Her employment at that office was obviously disrupted and she was moved to a different position at a different location. Found very similar behavior with her new boss in less than a month who knew what she had done at the previous location but still did it. After gathering all the evidence, she gave it to the police and the state and resigned. Decided to retire early in order to enjoy her golden years with her spouse and avoid having to deal with the state's mess. My boss was as big of an a-hole as they come. Only attractive men who were taller than 6 feet stood a chance of getting promoted where I worked. He enjoyed manipulating others by playing various mind games and would flatly lie to you so you wouldn't believe a word he said. He was a total blowhard and one-upper who was always making excuses to jump on people's cases for insignificant issues. In any case, I suspected that he was having an affair with one of the admins. I was seated in an open office directly beside him. At first, it appeared as though he was using his computer for longer than usual, typing, waiting, and then typing again, as if he were having an instant messaging conversation. This was a man who, in the past, was rarely at his desk and was usually nowhere to be found. Then, the admin would always leave after a minute or two when he stopped typing and went to the break room. Once I caught them talking quietly while standing close to each other. Her face as red as an apple, she said something like, "I'll check on those," and left. My coworker informed me that he had seen both of their cars several times while having lunch at a popular restaurant after I mentioned something to him. Then, even though I arrived at the office a good 10 to 15 minutes early, I began to notice that they were usually there in the morning. They were both there in the morning I arrived almost an hour early to pick up some supplies before a flight. It wasn't surprising that they were at their desks when I walked into our office, which had tinted windows that provided a good view of the parking lot. I considered parking somewhere else and entering covertly, but I made the decision to try something different. Despite having a webcam on my desk, I left my laptop at home every morning. I once brought in my own laptop, positioned it behind my desk, connected it to the webcam, and left it running. I sat in an open office right next to the guy as I mentioned. Though I didn't see any NC-17 content, I did see enough, particularly the audio. My supervisor abruptly sent me on a cross-country trip for a project that wasn't even mine, and I sat on it for a while, not knowing how to handle the situation. He assured me that I would return over the weekend. The project manager then sent me a 3-week schedule outlining my responsibilities while I was away. I was told by the boss that I would be working there for 3 weeks. He most likely had a plan to call me at the end of the week to inform me that I had to stay because there was an emergency. One of his favorite games was this one. I forwarded the video to HR. Our company president, who held a higher position in the church, chose to watch the footage since it was obviously from my desk and never told them who let the cat out of the bag, but they were both gone before I got back. Because our industry is small and involves a lot of employee hopping, word of the affair quickly spread to any company where he might be able to apply for a comparable role. They both got divorced in the end. She and I are still Facebook friends, and I've noticed that she's since gotten married. There's a rumor that my ex-boss was beaten up by her ex-husband. I don't know if it's true, but I hope it is. Residents of a terrible HOA or those who have terrible neighbors, share your stories, Part 6. Doesn't have an HOA, but I have a winter home in Florida in a pretty affluent development. I invite a few friends down there to enjoy the backyard and pool because the views are so breathtaking. Some friends come by plane, some by car, and some are locals. We live there for 2 or 3 months out of the year, and when we're down there, all 5 bedrooms are nearly always occupied. When I moved in 4 years ago, one of my full-time neighbors asked me where my father was. I was 34 at the time, to which I replied, probably at his home in another state. He detests me deeply. I want to meet the new owners, was how he rephrased his query. I informed him that you're staring at him. His response was that of a priceless 65-year-old man conversing with a 34-year-old next door. Oh my God. He thus called the police during the first time I was down there having a pool party in my backyard. When 4 police cars pulled up, the officers asked to enter the backyard. 15 people are just drinking, occasionally yelling while enjoying very decent music. I questioned the police, asking them what was happening. They questioned me, as usual, you're the owner, etc., then informed me that my neighbors had complained about a disturbance. I inquired, is this causing any disruption? "Well, no," the officer replied. "Appears to be none, but we check with each call. That's all. We can't ask you to stop, and we won't end our meeting just to give you a call because we received a call." The neighbor, who lived on the other side of his fence, began to complain to the police, who even informed him that nothing could be done. He started to irritate me. Remember that his house is at least 30 feet away from my fence line, so the houses aren't that close. Being an engineer, I inquire, is there a statute or regulation that has sound guidelines? They confirm to me that the measurement device, which will be positioned in the neighbor's yard, will be 70 dB from your fence line to 6 feet. I exacted my revenge here. The following morning, I installed Bose speakers next to my neighbor's fence, measured their dB levels from 2 feet away, and turned them on at 7 in the morning. Naturally, he called the police and informed them about the speakers. By this time, he was enraged and yelling at me to lower the music. "It's harassment, this, that, etc." The same guys from the previous day's police show up and tell them to get their dB meters. I'm just abiding by the law. My music is only 70 dB or lower. I listen to it non-stop day and night. I have the right to it. Greetings from Mexico. Given that they had given me the ordinance the day before, they were appalled. They told me this is a bad idea and someone will get arrested instead of laughing at me. At this point, my neighbors prepared to fight. I questioned the police. Am I breaking any laws? Is there any way, shape, or form that you could prevent me from using these speakers next to my fence at 70 dB? No. All right, neighbor, I have the right to music and speakers. This party yesterday had 15 people, not nearly as loud and annoying as this one, right? I therefore came to an agreement with my neighbor that if he ever calls the police, complains about the noise, or yells something unpleasant over the fence, the speakers are going up. All the time. When I'm not even here, I'll run them. Don't be upset, it could be worse, and I have every right to do it. Try me. You've seen me twice now this time. Since then, I haven't had any problems with my neighbor. He treats me like I don't even exist when he ignores me. It's flawless. When my wife and I relocated to a new state a few years ago for work, her father graciously allowed us to stay in his vacation condo nearby while we settled in. We told him we fell in love with the place, and to our amazement, he not only agreed to sell it to us, but also offered to do so at a significantly reduced price so we could buy it outright. In hindsight, big reason for this was presumably the knowledge that as her father, he was welcome to visit us every summer for a few weeks to a month, so nothing really changed for him. Still, we'd realized the millennial dream of owning a home condo. We were hesitant to purchase it only because we were aware that the building had a homeowners association. However, they had never caused him any trouble and had, for the most part, ignored us while we were there, so we made the decision to move forward. Everything appeared to be going smoothly, but as soon as we shifted from renting to buying, the HOA's perspective of us shifted from pretending we're not there to, well, what I can only characterize as visceral hatred. Every action we take somehow ends up being against the HOA. Our deck furniture was the wrong color. Our welcome mat outside got us cited for excessive clutter. We get cited for excessive noise whenever we have guests over, etc. They once threatened to fine and sue us, claiming that an apartment below us had water coming from the ceiling, which, as you can see, did not happen as they were able to rent it out less than a week later. As previously mentioned, my spouse and I are in our 30s, whereas everyone else in the room is retired. I believe they're attempting to evict us because they intend to construct a building in which an elderly population owns every condo. That's the only reason I can think of why they were okay with us renting from him but not buying. Also, the president of the HOA keeps calling my wife Chinese, even though she's from the Philippines and always calls her dad by the right name. Even though that's obviously intentional, it's still fairly mild, and it seems to be deniable racism. Oh my goodness, we recently got rid of the HOA board, fired the community manager, and gave her a restraining order. She's a complete and utter psychopath, and the board is comprised of a group of sociopaths who are abusive to the community and have been stealing from it for many years. One of the former board members and his boyfriend are also the most insane, narcissistic sociopaths I've ever encountered. Well, the boyfriend is the most insane of the two. His partner, the former board member, is about the least insane. Over the course of several years, he's been yelling obscenities at everyone and acting as the neighborhood police, snitching on every little thing. He's extremely abusive and aggressively harasses the women in our community as well as their children. In addition to having 2 restraining orders served against him, one of which is currently active and is the subject of an investigation by the police, he despises everyone who has taken action against the board. All of these people ought to be committed to a mental health facility because this place is so insane. I'm unable to adequately express the level of toxicity, pettiness, and nastiness that exists within this community, not to mention the instances of theft and corruption that are prevalent. Despite the fact that it's one of the oldest gated lake communities in Las Vegas, they have completely destroyed this location completely. I hope that you all are able to sense from the depths of my exhausted soul how much I despise homeowners associations. You must fight them with everything you have. If you want to watch the part 5, click the link here. We're very, very glad to see you all in the comments again. Many thanks for your support.